put this together in such a way that you don't actually have to watch this. You can just put your headphones in and go and do something else and just listen. I'm hoping I've described this well enough. However, there is some supporting imagery to go along with it if you do decide to watch. So when I wanted to improve, I didn't really find a particularly definitive route to improvement. All I ever found was if you work on your swing and you get a better swing, well then you'll get better at golf.
Now, in almost every other endeavour I can possibly think of, there are levels, grades, classes, and tests that we must prove our proficiency in to demonstrate we have the required ability to move on. Martial arts have the belt system. Motor racing have classes based on the power of the vehicle, and most other ball sports have leagues based on ability. Computer games have levels that increase in difficulty. Now, a common scale of level of expertise is the Dreyfus model, which is defined into 5 stages: novice, advanced, competent, proficient, and expert. In golf, we have the category system based on our handicaps in place, which also follows the same principle. Category 5 is for handicaps of 28.5 and over. Then there's Category 4, Category 3, Category 2, and Category 1 for handicaps 5 or less. I do not know of many who are even aware of this, let alone use it to help guide them. We have folks that haven't even got their white belt trying to fight like a black belt. Folks who haven't even learnt to handle a go-kart trying to race a Formula 1 car. Which is identical to a Category 5 trying to play like a Category 1. This is why I really wish someone had broken down golf in this way and introduced me to the concept of challenge point. Challenge point is the exact point where the individual becomes challenged and therefore, by definition, able to compete against it. Now, this is a recognised model for skill acquisition. I'm not for a second trying to take any credit for this. As we will see as we go through, this is pretty much basic human nature and how you have learned and improved almost every single thing you ever have in life. My take on this is to think of it as the difficulty of the task is a gnat's pube out of reach for your current skill level. What we are effectively doing is reducing the difficulty of the task to a more achievable point. As we get close to reaching that point, we increase the level of the difficulty to level up, creating an accumulation of skills that transfer to the next level. How can you use this to help you improve your golf? Well, first, let's define your challenge. The easiest way to do that is to put yourself into one of these brackets that I've designed. It's got level 1. This is for folks looking to shoot in the 90s. Level 2, looking to shoot in the 80s. Or level 3 if you're looking to shoot in the 70s. Our score is an outcome goal, which means it's out of our control. Therefore, what we need to do is create some measurable objectives that are more process orientated. What I've done is create a list of objectives for each shot with layers that get progressively more difficult as we level up. Hopefully this will address the criticism I've had in the past. If I dial it back, how will I ever improve? So level 1 is all about shooting in the 90s. It's not about breaking 90, although it's very possible to do so. It's all about learning and developing the shots that will allow you to start shooting sub 95. Because once you've done that, you level up and you start level 2 as you've reached a challenge point for that level. And once you break 85, you guessed it, you start level 3.
Alright, let's really get stuck in and have a look and see what these objectives are all about.
Okay, so our first shot, all we're looking to do is get the ball in play with an unimpeded next shot. Second shot, we're going to get the ball to a distance we're happy to go from the green from. The third shot, we're going to try and get the ball on the green. Fourth shot, we're going to try and get the ball to inside 6 feet. And with our fifth shot, we're going to try and get the ball in.
It really doesn't matter how you do this. It only matters that you try to do this. So as we're aiming into areas rather than specific points, I prefer to use GPS, so I can look and find out where the space is. I'm looking for areas that fit my dispersion for the shot I'm attempting to play. Now you can't park a bus in a space designed for a car, but it's easy to park a car in one that's designed for a bus. And you can do this on the fly really easily using GPS, and there's so many good free apps available. Just download one and have a go. Or if you're really interested, you could plan out your shots before you even play. Exactly what the pros do. Even if you used it just to figure out a plan for the first shot, that would really help. But if you're really smart, you could even do it from the hole backwards. And then you can start to plot out and plan your best route of attack for each hole. Another element is that it's super easy to track this during your round. All you do is simply use the scorecard. All you have to do is put a tick or a cross for each shot. Tick if you've completed the challenge and cross if you've not. You could even have a little fun in your notes on your phone if you really wanted to, you didn't want to use a scorecard. You can also track your score by tallying up instead of writing down the number, helping you forget the score until the end. Now we can go out and play and compete against the right challenge point. These are the benchmarks to what a good shot looks like for this level. If you have achieved the objective, you have by definition hit a good shot. Any more is a great shot. Anything less, and this forms the basis of your future practice on the element that has the most fails. You are now on a path to improvement tailored to you. Okay, so let's have a look at the shots required for level 2. So our first shot, we want to get the ball in play with an unimpeded next shot. We also want to try and get it to a distance that we're capable of getting the ball on or within 50 yards of the green from. Shot 2, we want to get the ball on the green or within 50 yards whilst avoiding the short side. So short side basically meaning that there's not a lot of green to work with. So if it's tucked to either side or the front or the back, we want to make sure we've got plenty of green to work with. So our third shot, we want to try and get the ball inside 16 feet. For our fourth shot, we want to try and get the ball inside 4 feet. And then for our fifth shot, if it's required, get the ball in. It's also worth mentioning at this point that having a strategy isn't about being able to hit perfect shots. In fact, it is the opposite. A good strategy takes into account our misses and allows for them, which in turn helps to create the number one ingredient, in my opinion, for a good shot: belief. This is all around trying to create as many opportunities as possible to hit good shots. Nothing is a guarantee, but we can start playing from a place of belief instead of hope. Now, I'm very aware that I'm asking most to rein themselves in, which is a challenge all in itself. But the average golfer doesn't play golf, he attacks it. That's a quote by Jackie Burke. But it is said that a rule is as good as a tool. So by having good representative objectives, we can now create rules to follow and abide by, thus creating a process. This is exactly what folks mean when they say trust the process. It's worth mentioning that this isn't aggressive versus conservative. This is actually smart versus dumb. This is playing the odds versus rolling the dice and gambling. Playing smart is still playing aggressive, just with shots that you can create belief in, to areas that fit within a dispersion bracket according to your ability and skill set. Now, I've never been a big fan of the whole aim small, miss small, until I'm in a position to hole out. I much prefer to aim for areas and space, which removes a lot of the stress and anxiety caused by attempting shots that deep down you know you're unlikely to pull off. You could say this is all about playing aggressive to my spots. Now, you may have heard that before by some guy called Tiger Woods. So level 3, what are we actually trying to do here? Well, with our first shot, we're still going to try and get the ball in play with an unimpeded next shot. But this time, we're going to try and get to a distance we're capable of getting the ball on or within 30 yards of the green from, whilst avoiding the short side. Second shot, we're going to get the ball within 30 yards of the green, whilst avoiding the short side. Effectively, we're talking chip and putt sort of range here. Our third shot, we're going to try and get the ball inside 8 feet. And with our fourth shot, we're going to try and get the ball in. But this is the level where I'm playing right now. And what I also like to do in this is actually go back and drop down a level if for whatever reason the shot doesn't fit my eye. If I don't feel I've got belief that I can pull that shot off, I can drop down a level. And if for whatever reason my timing is off that day, or I'm starting to get a little bit ahead of myself, I might even drop down all the way to level 1. And usually when I do this, I can kind of get my rhythm and tempo back in line within one hole, and sometimes even within one shot. We need belief we can hit the shot we are attempting. If we don't, if there's any seed of doubt, then it is highly likely that you won't. Our muscles will only fire once they are given a signal from our brains to do so. Therefore, if you're playing from a position of hope instead of belief, then your brain is under conflict and incapable of sending clear signals to our muscles. I believe this is the single biggest cause for our poor shots. Now, you may have noticed I've not used the word confidence at all. This is because confidence comes and goes, whereas belief comes from a deeper level because it's rooted into solid foundations. It's a bit like a mighty oak tree. The tree itself is your belief, and the leaves are our confidence. Now, not for 1 second am I trying to discredit the bomb and gouge or send it concept. The question I'm trying to get you to ask yourself is that style of play helping or hurting your scorecard and enjoyment of this game, and ultimately your progress? What I'm trying to highlight is that type of play only works in certain scenarios and when the individual can execute the shots required for this to be effective. Yes, I am playing in a sim for those watching, but if you can't make it work on a sim, what chance have you got making it work out in the real world with all the other external factors which increase the consequence and affect our ability to access what we're capable of? Well, newsflash, folks, if you can do it on the range, then you do not have an issue with your swing. You have an issue with your ability to access your skill. This is why I strongly advise you go and give this a go on a sim, or even out on the course during a quieter period, and see if you can shoot lower, going for it, or playing a smarter and more measured game based on your actual ability. Now, another concept that I wish that someone had brought to my attention much earlier is the amount of balls I used to lose during a round. I was never comfortable playing unless I had at least 24 balls in my bag, and I wasn't expecting to finish with anywhere near that amount. I now question my own intelligence. That I never thought for a second that every lost ball would cost me 2 shots, not to mention the psychological effect every time it happened. Apparently, the average golfer loses 3 to 4 balls a round. That equals 6 to 8 shots. Yet when I play with others, I can see this is only the average because that number can be quite a lot higher. I mean, I wish I was issued one of those electric dog collars that would give me a little shock every time I hit one into the junk after attempting to fit my 100-yard dispersion pan into 40 yards of available space. I'm sure I'd have figured out this much quicker. Now, I believe that most of our issues come from our warped idea of what good golf actually looks like, which comes from what we see and perceive the big boys and girls are doing on TV when they are shooting the most absurd scores they do on the most difficult courses in the world. When we see them hitting it as far as they can, stuffing their approaches and holing putts from everywhere, en route to making a ton of birdies. These are the very best in the world, who are borderline superhumans compared to us. This is why I love YouTube. It gives us a chance to see a more representative version of how other average golfers play and achieve the scores that you may feel you're capable of. For the record, I don't define average in the sense of all regards to score, handicap, or ability. What I'm aligning it to is what golf is to that person, aka it is a hobby and therefore something that they have chosen to do with whatever spare time they can afford. The word I should be using is recreational, but just your recreational golfer doesn't quite have the same ring to it. Anywho, luckily we have folks like my good buddy Golf Sidekick, whom I have lengthy chats about all this stuff with. So much love to you, brother. Not a scratch golfer, Mr. Short Hitter, and the OG that is Old Man Pat, aka OMP from Golfmates UK, just to name a few. I'm also pretty damn sure that anyone watching this has seen Dickie Shields splaff it around not breaking 75. And back in the day, we had Coach Lockie and others from Crossfield's band of merry men who used to spend so much time looking for balls, they even created their own theme tune for it. Hashtag lovely boy. And that is no way a dig at any of those guys. I want to say thank you to them for helping demonstrate and show the guys and girls on tour might as well be playing a completely different game to us. Because they're playing it at a different level. Using my scale, I'm not even talking about level 4 here. They're playing at 5 or even 6. Which this is the key point I've been trying to make. We must have belief that we can pull off the shot we are trying. That belief comes from knowing and that shot is well within your skill and ability through contextual repetition. AKA, you have done this before enough times in situations that have consequences and ramifications. I'm not for 1 second saying this is going to be easy, but nothing worth doing ever is. Just remember that failure is not missing the target. True failure is not trying to hit the target at all. But as long as your challenge is representative to your ability, progress is inevitable. Now, there are a couple of hacks to help you with this, because most are going to lack the discipline to do this. But a little known fact about discipline is that it is a skill, and therefore it can be developed until ultimately it will turn into a habit. The best way to do this is to put some constraints in your way that give you no other choice than to be disciplined. So here is a few I have, or I still do use. So one is to leave the clubs that hurt you more than help you at home. We can develop these later on. 2, I only carry 3 premium balls when I play, and then a few other randoms for security. I do this as I know that if I lose more than 3 balls, then there's no way I'm putting in a respectable score. This really narrows the focus, because the consequences of our decisions are now much higher. Yeah, you can use this instead of taking the electric dog collar out with you instead. One of my absolute favourites is playing with a limited set, aka 4, 7 or maybe 10 clubs. This is one of the most powerful ways to improve, and it perfectly typifies the whole challenge point concept. And last but not least, this one is to really make this point stick. Go and play dumb versus smart. So you go and play on either a sim or the course, but you play with your full setup and you go for it, not every single shot, versus playing with your favourite clubs, aka only what you need, following the framework outlined earlier to the correct level for you, and see which version wins. Hopefully you can see that this whole process has been put together and definitely falls more in line with how you work as a human being. This is how humans have learned and evolved since the dawn of time. We try, we fail, and we try again with the learnings from the previous attempts. I'm not saying we don't need coaches. I'm trying to say that whatever we're working on with our coaches should be representative to this. John Jacobs said it the best when he said, "Golf is what the ball does." And that really resonated with me when I heard that. And I stopped focusing on what my swing looked like, and I started to more focus on what the ball was doing. Golf is getting the ball from the tee into the hole in the fewest amount of shots that you are capable of. And that number is only ever going up. But it's down to you to decide how quickly it does. In any environment, we must learn to survive first before we can learn to thrive. One final thought before I go. Par is defined by what an expert golfer should shoot on that hole in ideal conditions. Therefore, unless you are a category 1, aka level 4 or below, forget about par.